Welcome to the Thriving Farmer Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kilpatrick. Our mission is to inspire, educate, and celebrate sustainable farming. We believe that you can build a profitable, sustainable farm that gives you true farm freedom. Join us as we talk to farmers, innovators, educators, and entrepreneurs to glean their top takeaways in business and life. Hey, Thriving Farmers, Michael Kilpatrick here with another episode of the Thriving Farmer Podcast. And joining me today is Luke Groce. He and his wife, Katherine, operate Groce Family Farm in Riddle, Indiana. They farm full-time, producing 6 species of animals for meat on pasture: chickens, pigs, ducks, turkeys, beef, and cattle. Their products are offered locally through a meat CSA, wholesale accounts, and farmers markets. Beyond thinking, speaking, and sharing about ecology, business, marketing, and efficient farm management, Luke and Katherine spend their time raising 5 children. Luke is also the host of the Pasture-Based podcast. Welcome to the show, Luke.
Thanks, Michael. Glad to be here.
So talk to me a little bit about how did you get your start in farming?
Sure, yeah. About, I guess it's 12 years ago now. My wife, I guess soon to be wife, was in a vegetable CSA, and she was volunteering on this fellow's farm. And I was, I guess having a mid-20s crisis where I knew I didn't want to be in the career I was in. And in working with this guy a couple of times in his vegetable farm, and as we were kind of imagining what a life together might look like, we started dreaming about having a farm. And I ended up working for that fellow for a year on his veg farm and running a farmer's market for him. And then we decided we wanted to go ahead and jump in, and we started raising some layers and vegetables on our own. And we had veg for about 4 years. And then we started being interested in some different ways of making our farm more profitable, but also some ways that, expanding outside the plant kingdom could potentially have a more regenerative impact on the land we farmed. And so we got access to some more ground and started doing pigs and eventually chickens and everything else. And that's sort of the root of how we ended up doing what we do now, more or less.
Very cool. Now talk to us a little bit about your management styles for the farm. How do you raise the animals?
Sure. I mean, the short version of it is we raise everything on pasture. We sell pasture-raised meats. All the omnivores get a non-GMO grain, and then the sheep and cattle are 100% grass-fed. But it's all part of a interrelated, rotational grazing system, basically. And so I don't know how much deeper you want me to go right now on that, but.
Well, talk to us a little bit about your chicken operation. I know you do some unusual things with that, how you have those raised. So I just wanted to dive into that a bit.
Yeah, sure. So there's some other folks who do something similar to what we do, but I guess we've become somewhat known for our chicken raising system, which is more or less, some people call it day range, but nobody gets locked up at night. So I don't usually call it that, but just we range our birds behind electric netting. That goes for all of our birds: turkeys, ducks, and chickens. And they essentially have a shelter. If you think of the area and the electric netting like a football field, we'll put the birds in one end of the football field with shelters, feeders, waterers, everything they need, and then we'll just drag them from one end zone all the way to the other end zone. So our chickens just they start on one end of their electric netting area, and we just move everything a few dozen feet down the field as they go, and they pretty much just follow where the shade, the water, the food is, wherever the stuff that they want, and they stay behind the netting. And the between the netting and the livestock guardian dogs and the geese we have on the farm, they kind of keep the predators at bay, and that's sort of how we do it. We try to not have to have as much heavy infrastructure, and we give the birds a bit more freedom to roam and kind of choose where they want to be, in or out of the roof. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and so how often do you move the fence then?
It depends on how big the section of netting is, and it depends some on, I guess, exactly how far we're moving them each time. Because if if they're ranging out further and pooping further, we'll move them a little bit further. But more or less, we'll move the netting of twice a week or so. Whenever they get to the end of the football field, we just kind of collapse the back part of it and tack onto the front end of it. Basically, it's like a halo that goes around with them. Basically,
yes, gotcha. So you use 2 nets then for every single setup?
Well, it's not like netting with sheep or pigs, where if you open up one panel on the end, they're all just going to pour out like water out of a hole in the bottom of a cup. Chickens, they'll move, but they're not going to move that fast. So I'll have 3 or 4 sections of netting that I'll make their paddock out of, and then once they get to one end of it, I'll take the back 2 sections off and tack them onto the front of the paddock and expanding it out. So that wouldn't work with electric netting with sheep. They'll just bump out. But it's hot and they're out there underneath the shade, and they don't just run for the freedom. They range, but not like that. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so you've got the livestock guardian dogs, and you don't have overhead predators, or the livestock guardian dogs help with that?
I'm sure there is some of that, but we do have pretty good luck. Between the geese kind of just being a loud, rude presence on the ground in the paddock, and then the dogs kind of roaming around. If we have some mortality, I'll notice the vultures will kind of go to wherever a bird died in the field, a rainstorm or whatever. But we haven't really seen much predation from the birds. I know that hawks would like to walk off or fly off with some of the younger ones when they're out there, but we do wait till they're about 3.5 weeks old before we put them on pasture, and that kind of helps with most of them not being carryaways. But yeah, it's something we try to keep an eye on, but the aerial predators haven't affected us too much with all those different strategies we're employing.
Gotcha. How big is your cattle herd?
Right now, we're only on 20 acres, and the pasture's pretty good, but I think we've got a 12 head out there right now, but it'll fluctuate. We've done some cow calf, but mostly we're just bringing in stockers and finishing them out on grass.
Gotcha. And the pigs, are those in the woods or are those in pasture? How does that work?
Yeah, our pigs are mostly in the woods, particularly when there's kind of any heat to the weather. But we do have a kind of low bottom ground area that doesn't have very good pasture. It kind of gets a little boggy, and we'll feed our cattle down there in the early winter with hay, and then we'll move the pigs down there to kind of bed down in the wasted hay. And so there's a little bit of open ground the pigs will end up in, but usually they're in a little bit of woods we've got in the back of our farm.
Gotcha. Now, in the turkeys, what time of year do you start with those? Because obviously those are processed for the Thanksgiving market.
Yeah, for the most part, we probably will do a spring batch next year, because we found that we really are able to sell quite a bit of ground turkey, and people really like that product.
Okay.
A lot. But right now we started in late July with the turkeys, and I want to say we started around 400, and we got them. They're out in pasture by mid-September, and we're moving them to paddocks and fresh netting every about twice a week as well. And they're doing great out there, and we try to have them ready to go fresh by the week before Thanksgiving, and we'll probably sell a third of those retail and a third of those wholesale, and then a third of them will get ground up for ground turkey.
Okay. And when you grind for ground turkey, do you process the whole bird, or do they do the drumsticks as well, or you save those back?
I think our butcher, because of some of the ligaments or sinews that are in that drumstick, the deboning of that raw meat is difficult for them, or they claim that it's not worth it and doesn't really work out. And so they will give me deboned drumsticks and giblets and a few other things separate, but for the most part, all the thigh, wing, and breast are ending up in the grind.
Gotcha. So what does a typical week look like for you on the farm?
Well, it's definitely varied a lot over time, and it even within this year it's varying, but we've hired on a number of kind of gig workers as well as a main farmhand. And so a lot of my days I'm kind of making sure that he's got everything he needs in place to do all the chores, except for the days where he's off, and I'm doing all the chores. But I spend some effort in the morning just kind of doing office work time and stuff like that. And I figure if I don't get up at 4 a.m., then there's very little chance that I'll have any quiet moments where I can actually think. We've got a household with 5 young children, so that's the time where the office has the capacity for work to be done. So I do that then, and then cook breakfast for the kids, and then get out the door after breakfast. And usually I'm setting up things, making sure he's got everything he needs, and then I'm managing some series of truck drivers and who haul animals for me, or people who are doing home deliveries, people who are helping at farmers markets, and trying to put things in place, working with butchers and working with CSA customers, answering emails. But about a half a day of chores on days when he's not here, and when he is, I'll still be participating in those a little bit, but also kind of managing all the things that I don't have someone else to help me manage. Yeah.
How do you stay organized? What kind of systems have you set up for that?
I mean, there's a few. One is not well enough, I guess. And I'm always thinking about ways to improve our systems for sure. I think that I use Evernote a lot, and some other note-taking apps, things like that, where I can kind of make sure the information is where I need it to be. It seems like just having a single repository for all those little bits of needed to tell a butcher or what's in your inventory that you have in this cold storage place. And there's no there's nobody doing that for me, so I've got to make sure we know where to find the stuff when we need it and things like that. And then just trying to hone those things down, and make sure that the people, as we're starting to rely on more and more people, making sure that they're documenting and helping us to keep everything in order the way it should be. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I would say on that organized question. That's more or less what it usually looks like, I guess. Well, let me back up. Sorry. I guess there would be one more thing. I mean, there's the organized piece per se, but then there's also just sort of I think it's really imperative to sort of have in front of you as a business owner, like multiple, I'll just say, time horizons that you can look on. And it's really easy to get, and we spent many years where I was really doing this, just getting bogged down in the details. I know I've got to weed these carrots, and I wouldn't, and I'd do it till it was done, and then I'd wake up from the carrot weeding stupor and realize that I had 3 other things that were actually more important that I should have been doing. And it was really hard to kind of look past the immediate moment and the thing immediately there in front of you that needs to be done. But getting better at figuring out what you can put off, or figuring out how to find ways to either have someone else do it, or not things that are not imperative. We just try to cut out a lot of the things that we've learned are not necessary. Like our chicken raising system would be an example, where we didn't want to have heavy walls around our chickens anymore. We thought the chicken would be better for the chickens and for our life. So we just cutting things out, and getting someone else to haul livestock, because I don't want to be a truck driver anymore. And so looking on those time horizons, saying, what can we do to make this better for me, for our farm, for our animals, and for our children. It's really easy in this business to work yourself to the bone. And I think that figuring out what's your goal, what's the goal you need to solve right now. I think that I'm forgetting the business book, but I can give it to you later. But there's that business book where the guy talks about, that's Covey, I think, and a couple other authors, but defining your wildly important goal. And I think the way he says it is, if there was one thing, if everything in your business remained constant, but one thing improved, what would that one thing be that you had to improve? And then if you can figure out what that thing is, and then you devote your energy towards that, and figure out how to make sure everybody else, the other people on your team, or or something can happen to make keeping everything else at stasis, then you'll move the most important things forward. So, for me right now, we're way behind on having the amount of cold storage we need. And until that problem gets solved, we really can't move forward the way we need to. So, that's sort of my wildly important goal for this fall. And then we can, I can organize myself to find the time to solve that problem. Is the first step in getting there. So just thinking through problems and how to solve them, and trying to think about where I want to be in a year, and finding tricks and tools like that for wrapping your brain around it, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's good. I think so often as you said, the daily is the fires are burning, but we don't do the matrix. I think it's the 2x2 matrix of, do the non-urgent but important things, which are really going to move the business forward. And because, there's literally 1,000 things. I mean, like today, a phone call popped up and I didn't have to take it. I probably should have left it go, because it actually meant that I didn't get to send an email, which should have been sent. But yeah, turning those things off and just looking at the big picture and making sure that every single week you're going back to what is the big picture and did we get that done this week? So yeah, absolutely. What would you say the hardest part about being a farmer is for you?
Gosh, this is like a tough one for me to answer. I think if you haven't gotten used to doing hard things, then with the way things are in the food economy and farming in general, it might not be the thing for you, but and so maybe I'm one of those people, being that we've been doing this for a dozen years, that I tend to like block out the trauma from the past, so I can just look forward. And so there's many things. I mean, I think that probably one of the hardest things, I'm usually not bashful about saying that the way we were farming at first was unprofitable, unsustainable, in terms of its misuse of human energy, namely my human energy. And so, it took a while to learn that having business plans, having a marketing strategy that's going to, not require me to spend 25 hours a week marketing food, marketing $25,000 worth of food. Like I can't afford to spend that much time selling that much food when I need to have more effective use of my energy. So shedding those rose-colored glasses and moving on to something where I became to have a real understanding of business. It wasn't hard in the same way that getting out there in the middle of the night in a cold, rainy night and pulling dead chickens off of each other, those kind of tragedies come in farming. It wasn't hard in that way. But it was difficult to do and to change myself personally to the kind of person who could create the business that would work for my family. It's everybody says they could be a martyr until the one day where they have to show up and do that. But if it's just a little bit every day of showing up, and that's how you sort of I'm mixing so many metaphors right now, Michael. I'm sorry. If you're ready to show up every single day and figure out what needs to be done, it's not as glamorous or as obviously momentous. There's no scene in a movie. It's a montage with music set to it. It's not standing on your knees in the rain, cursing the heavens. It's not that kind of moment that ends up, I think, defining it so much as just showing up every day and creative thinking and sticking to it.
Who would you say have been your?
Sense? Sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely, that makes sense. It's the daily moving the business forward, whether you like to or not. It's every single day getting up and making some changes in your business that are going to make the business better because of that.
Yeah.
And that's the important part. And talk to us about your mentors. Who have been your mentors as you've been growing the farm?
I think that there's definitely too many to name, many who I know and many who I don't, or probably many who people on this recording would know, many who they wouldn't know. Wendell Berry is the person who's always a voice on my shoulder. I have been able to meet him once before, which is really great. But just a vision for what's the possibility of humans interacting with land and evoking harmony as they do so with the land and with other people in their community. And I think it's a beautiful picture, and I think it's a possible picture. And I think he gets a rap sometimes for mostly pointing out problems. But I think he can also describe what harmony is and has and does in the many different kinds of writing he does. So I mean, he definitely would be the biggest name, but there are many people out there, people who have kind of taught me a lot about business, most of whom are not farmers, but I spend a lot of time with podcasts and YouTube videos. Some of the work that Diego Footer and Darby Simpson have done with their podcasts and courses have been really, really helpful, and I've gotten to know those guys pretty well. Same with Jordan Green, who I think he's been on your show before.
Yeah.
And I think he's a brilliant guy who, the way he thinks about business and farming are just really thoughtful and wise and creative, and I'm always curious to see what his perspective is. I mean, he does great work in the field with his pigs for sure, but he thinks about his business in a way that is conceptual and thoughtful, and I want to do more of that kind of thing. And those people have just been really, really helpful, and I appreciate them a lot, and I'm glad I've gotten to have a chance to build relationships with them and let them know that I appreciate them a lot too, because they're really doing great things, and many others. I mean, some friends who just own businesses and help me think about marketing and some things have been, they run mutual funds or other things. They're not anybody in the farming space necessarily would know.
If there was, let's say, a magic reset button to go back and change your farm from the beginning or set something up differently, what would you set up differently?
I think I would focus on like the most simple, basic, easiest to automate tasks first. Standing there holding a hose or moving a hose around to fill water when you could buy a $10 float valve at Tractor Supply, thermostats to manage the temperature of the brooder. I would just buy these tools and bring them in as quickly as possible, and not kind of wait to realize that I've been spending years, wasting away minutes every single day. And then, after that, after kind of, bringing in the most simple and basic tools like that, I would hire help sooner. And, even at the point of, once I feel confident I've got a business that I can scale, and then once I have the cash flow sufficient to feel like we can afford that person, I would bring on help and good help and pay them well and make them want to be here, for sure. And even, not necessarily full-time help. We've really had great luck with some gig work, hiring out live professional haulers to haul trailers full of chicken. And we did the math and it didn't really pencil out. We were doing batches of 600, and then I just decided, well, let's do batches of 1,200. And it looks a lot better to put 1,200 chickens on someone else's trailer at a $700 or $400 hauling bill than it does 600 chickens.
Yeah.
So just figuring out how to make it work, thinking outside the box, and figuring out where your bottlenecks are, and seeing if you can bring people in to help. We have a delivery driver who delivers 80 CSA shares a month around town, and having these people has really freed us up to have whole days where I'm not just sitting in a vehicle driving meat and animals around, and I can focus on the things I need to. And those people don't need a full-time pay. They're fine to work 2 days a month or none or whatever it takes. And I guess, I mean, the other thing is I just think about like particularly marketing, just thinking about that conceptually, having a plan, understanding what it is to communicate with people, understanding what people are looking for. People people are looking for food, they're looking for sustenance, but when they're buying from somebody who has a product like what we have, it took me a while to realize they're wanting something more than food. They want their food to come with a story, yes, but a feeling. And they want to get something from that that they can share or make sure that but whether they're sharing their values or not, that it's matching up with their values, and they want dinner to be both delicious but kind of fill an emotional need more or less. And we're oftentimes, in my first 8 years of farming, I wasn't kind of thinking through exactly what thing that person might not even be able to articulate are they thinking as they approach us and the products that we offer, and really the opportunities we give them to solve their problem by partnering with us, basically.
Yeah, that whole understanding the psychology of the marketing and what their actual needs are is going to make sure that they're buying at a much better, and they're going to more understand you on a much different level than just like shopping for the price.
Yeah. We know we can't compete on price. We're meeting some other goal of the consumer, and so we've got to, as we approach meeting that, we've got to figure out, well, what exactly is it that, they're going to want convenience, they're going to want quality, but they're also going to want, oftentimes they're wanting to connect to some sort of value that they have in their food. And so we have to make sure that the convenience is there, make sure the quality is there, but we also have to make sure we're communicating the value that we bring, and making sure that they're, that we're acknowledging that this is the kind of thing that they can feel good about in the way that they really, really want to.
Absolutely. With that, I'd like to stop here and take a break. In a minute, we'll be back with Luke Groce talking all about pastured-raised livestock. Hey, thriving farmers, have you checked us out on YouTube lately? We have a bunch of new content there, including a few rants by me. I want to tell you, you don't want to miss them. I actually go rant about, some of the problems I see in our space and some of the challenges I see farmers facing. So go check that out. We've got instructional videos over there as well. Talk about setting up our new farm here in Ohio and all the steps we're going to do that, as well as just tutorials and tips on best practices for all sorts of things on the farm. So go ahead, check over at Growing Farmers on YouTube and see the new content we put together for you. Hey, thriving farmers, Michael Kilpatrick here, back with the second half of this interview with Luke Groce from Groce Family Farm in Riddle, Indiana. Luke, talk to us about your team a little bit. You talked a little bit about the private haulers and how you've outsourced, but on the farm, talk to us about how you manage what's going on there.
Yeah, so we, like I said, we have the gig workers we talked about in our farm hand. I just try to make sure that he is increasingly more able to manage the whole of the farm, taking care of animals, moving feed around, moving the animals and their infrastructure, water, that he has all the tools and knowledge that he needs to take care of things here. And he's doing that 5 days a week. And myself or a backup person will basically do the chores on the other 2 days of the week. And so we spend a lot of effort kind of getting him trained up and trying to make sure that the systems we have around here are something that anyone can do, and it doesn't require one guy who knows where that one tool is, with namely me. So we're trying to make sure that I'm not necessary to have in every place. That's really one of the keys, I think, is to make sure you figure out systems that can be taught without too much difficulty.
So with those systems, have you developed like SOPs or operating procedures for a lot of that? And do you have those written, or are they more just like, this is the way to do it?
I've said to myself, we're going to do that. We're going to write these things down. And we do have like a kind of basic brooder checklist. We try to make sure that, the air, water, and food and quality and quantity more or less are all correct. That the air is the right temperature and has the right quality to it, is clean, that the bedding is clean, that the water and food are present and clean. And so, we do try to run down that, especially in some of those key areas, but I don't have those SOPs written out yet. It's something I keep on saying I'm going to do this winter, but there's a whole lot of value, whether it's a person like we have who's been here for 3 years or someone who's coming in a pinch, to be able to make sure that we're all on the same page and that expectations and roles are not drifting and being forgotten. Yeah, it's really useful, and I can wholeheartedly say that's something we should have.
Now, you had a new child this summer and kind of took some time off around that. Talk to us about what was the thought process going into that? How'd you make sure that you're able to give yourself the margin for that?
Yeah, we love summer vacation, and it is not a thing I ever really thought was going to be a part of our life for the first 8 years of farming. But 3 or 4 years ago, we sort of scheduled our entire pastured farming season around sort of having a halftime show. And it's really changed our lives with having young kids and not just kind of feeling like the entire year is a grind and we're going to be doing the same thing week in and week out. And so it's required a few things, but more or less we try to make sure there's at least a week in the middle of summer where we don't have poultry on the farm.
Okay.
And with the baby coming, we were able to make it a lot longer than a week. But we can get farm hands or someone else to manage, for whether we're having a baby at the hospital or we're going to a lake house, or just trying to rest. We're if we have pigs on farm, if we have cattle, sheep, someone can check on those every day or two, and who knows what they're doing. An Amish neighbor can come just kind of lay eyes on them and stuff. We can get out of town if we need to. But as long as we don't have poultry here, we're able to get away. And so what we've been able to do is just skip a batch or two in the middle of summer on our farm. And we have a partner farmer who raised out some of our poultry now. And so he's been able to do essentially every other batch for us. In past years, where we're just doing a vacation, we'd skip one of our summer batches and not start our turkeys until after that. And then we'd have zero poultry here. And that was able to give us that short break. But then this year we just skipped 2 batches. We had basically 12 weeks where there are no birds in our pasture here. We were able to kind of take a little paternity leave. And paternity leave for a farmer with 4 species instead of 6 on pasture it may not sound, I was still working, but it's much nicer to sort of just have the capacity to not have to be out in the pasture at any point in time or any particular day. You can, I think I was kind of like anti-vacation at one point in my idyllic farming career. Like, I don't want to have a job I have to take from. Like, that would have been a perspective I had. But we do a lot of work here, and I can always find something to do to keep me busy. And with young kids, I don't have the discipline to just not go out and take care of this one thing. And I don't want my young kids to, look back on their childhood and think, Dad was always gone, and we never really saw him except for on rainy days. I don't really want that to be their experience of their childhood. And I want to make sure that, we're building in time to where I can, be as present as possible. We can be a family that works together, that rests together, play together, that is a team in every way, but not a team where Dad's just dragging you around, and we're all just having to pick green beans for 12 hours a day. Like so many farm kids who I've heard them tell the stories of, I never want to go back there again. I just want to make sure kids don't have that experience, and I'm too much of a workaholic to stay here all the time and still try to be a present father. I mean, we want to make sure that we're building in cycles of rest, and that we do that on a daily basis and a weekly basis. And every winter we're working a lot less, and for a short period of time every summer working a lot less. And this summer, because we had a baby, we're working less. But that's just been really important for us, just being able to make sure our family is going to be a family that really is able to care for everybody as well as possible.
Absolutely. Now, with the hiring team, how have you found the right people?
It's definitely tricky. We have some people have come to us, fortunately, as we need them, or we haven't had to work too hard to find them. I've heard on maybe Jordan Green's YouTube channel, he talks about hiring pros and not kind of being lured in by the educational labor entertainment arrangements that farmers oftentimes get into, and just getting high quality work for people who plan to be there, who want to do this as a career. That's the kind of people we want to bring on, where it's the gig workers, and those will vary for sure, but in terms of whether or not someone doesn't have to want to be a delivery driver as a career to deliver food for us, but we work with people like a professional livestock haulers who have insurance and trailer breaks and things like that. But then, I think that just our guy Sherman, he loves farming, but he doesn't really want to. He started out here interning with us, sort of. He just wanted to come out and help and see what it was like, and then we offered him a job. And through working here, he realized he loved the work, but he didn't love the idea of managing all the business parts of it. And we said, well, let's just have you do more work here, and it's continue to work out good. So we've invested a lot in that relationship, because I think it is really good and mutually beneficial. And we've come to rely on him a lot. But we haven't had to replace him yet, so I haven't had to think too hard about where we'd go to find more labor. But hopefully we won't need to replace him anytime soon, for sure.
Let's talk about your marketing. I know you talked about used to be a lot of restaurants, and now you switched over to more CSA because of the pandemic. Talk to us a little bit about how you go about getting new customers.
Yeah. So maybe that was before we started recording, but basically we were 60% restaurants before the pandemic started, and now that's less than 10%. But fortunately, people wanted meat delivered to their door, and we had the infrastructure in place to sort of do that. So we were very fortunate to kind of be able to be in a position where we had product and had the ability to get to those customers, and so it was a good time for our business. But we've shifted pretty heavily from doing a lot of customer relations with chefs, really getting to know, connect with, slide into the DMs with a bunch of chefs, and really focusing on that. And now, we do a little bit of that, and we maintain the relationships we have, but we're focused on our CSA members pretty heavily. We've gone in this year from about 50 families getting a share of meat with us month to month to 200 now. And we're just managing the communications, marketing, distribution of that, putting ourselves out there, making sure more people know about us and what we're doing, and making sure that we're just able to continue bringing value and retaining those customers, which is more or less a full-time job, managing that many relationships.
Absolutely. So let's talk about beginning farmers, because you've farmed for a while and you've changed the styles of your farm. Talk to us about what mistakes you see beginning farmers making.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely many, and there are too many that I made. Some of the ones I can think of that I know that not only I made, but I know a lot of other folks do too, is probably just not thinking about it like a business. And I knew that I should, or I was told that I should, but I kind of thought, these products will sell themselves. Business plan that I don't know what all these different strength, weakness, opportunity, threat analysis means. I don't really want to spend this much time in front of a computer. That's why I did this in the first place. These were things that I really should have used these tools better. Yeah, and just learn what businesses. What a business is, and how to run one, and how to think about one. So thinking about your farm like a business is definitely one. We started out, way too diversified, and fell into that trap multiple times. Ecological diversity is, as my friend and one of my heroes, Peter Allen, says, essentially ecological diversity is, wonderful and essential, and it is a key to having a regenerative, healthy ecosystem. But it is there's a sense in which efficiency and resiliency, efficiency and diversity are one-to-one odds with each other. And so we have to simplify something, especially when we're starting out. And we started out with 140 different varieties of vegetables and a laying flock that we didn't really understand how to take care of, and it was just biting off way more than we should have. And when we got into animals and moved on to the farm we're on now, we definitely bit off more than we should chew. And starting more than one new thing a year, I think, is just you got to really consider if you're going to be capable of managing it well. And many times we weren't capable of that and had to scramble to figure it out and not manage things as well as they should be. And then just I think you gotta, if it's something you're prone to doing, worrying about what other people are doing, what other people have, what other people's unfair advantages are. I think it's a real danger. I think that if you want to build a business, you have to figure out what your unfair advantages are and worry about those and exploit those. We all have them, whether it's access to a market, access to land, access to knowledge, inside information. Where we're all gonna have things that we can do, experience, knowledge, and people want our food, and we have to figure out what we have that we can bring to market, that we can do so in a way that we have or we're set up well to do. And we're not gonna end up having a successful farm if we're focused on what other folks are doing, I guess.
Yeah, be your own farmer and know your own farm.
Yeah.
So if you could pick one, what would be your favorite farming tool?
Ooh, I know you asked this question, and I thought about it some. I think that I'm gonna cheat. I'm sorry. I farm and I run a meat business, so I'm just gonna say that with the two sides of the business, my electric fencing is the tool that makes everything possible. Whether it's electric netting or single strands, we can use a small bit of paint, a small bit of electricity to contain tens of thousands of pounds of animals on pasture, and have them exactly where we need them when we want them there, and move them when we want them. And there's no better gift to a farmer than that. And then in terms of my other business that I run, the meat selling business, I mean, having a website that looks beautiful, is attractive, that it can be selling food whether you're awake or asleep. It's a great and wonderful thing, and I wouldn't want to do this business without both those tools. Which sorry for cheating on your question, but
that's fine.
That's about what I would say. I wouldn't want to have to choose between those two things if I could. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because the one is a sales side, is, bringing the new customers in, but the other one is essential for controlling pastured animals. Without that, you'd be literally hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of expensive permanent fencing, which is not practical. Where can people find out more about you and your work?
Sure. Well, our website that I was just talking about is grocefamilyfarm.com. That's GROCE familyfarm.com. We're on Instagram. We try to be pretty present there. We've been on there for a while and had really good success. And we gear that more towards eaters and customers, but we talk to farmers and show what we do with farming and stuff. And, we've done some teaching on marketing and Instagram stuff. But Instagram, Facebook, just look for Groce Family Farm is the handle. And then we do have a podcast, and I more or less, I'm sure a lot of your listeners are familiar with the Farmer to Farmer podcast, and yours is, I think, a good one in that vein of just somebody who knows about farming, talking to farmers about farming. Not saying it's inappropriate to stray from that, to have a non-farmer interviewing, or to have the interviewer interviewing USDA inspectors or authors or what have you. Those are all great things. But when we were veg farming, I just loved that podcast, and I loved what he was doing with it. And I just wanted to kind of produce more or less a pasture-based farming version of that, where someone who's going to ask the questions that a pasture-based farmer would want to ask of the pasture-based farmer. And just, it's kind of a talk and shop. It's kind of a talking to people about what their greatest competencies are. So you can search for the Pasture-Based podcast wherever you find podcasts, and we're out there. And we've got I think we've recorded about 20 episodes so far, and we're just whenever I have time to put more of those out, we just try to have more conversations with folks, some of which have been on your podcast, I'm pretty sure too.
Well, that's great. Yeah, there's always need to be more podcasts because farmers are busy with all the time, and they need to be able to have earbuds in. So It's great to be able to share that. But so Luke, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and your expertise and how you're running things there. And you're actually only a couple hours away from us, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think, you're in Ohio, right?
Yeah. So we're right in the Cincinnati metro region, more up by Dayton, but
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I think I saw on Facebook that you're selling a walk-in freezer. So,
yes, you probably, yes.
Let's do a deal right now on your podcast.
Yes. All right. Well, you have a great rest of your day, Luke. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Michael.
Looking to start or grow your farm business? You need a compelling farm plan that you can share with investors, convince your significant other with, or just to give yourself peace of mind. We have created a new program called the Start Your Farm Intensive. In it, you'll learn how to develop your farm idea to make sure you take all the factors into consideration for your context and your climate. You'll learn how to craft a one-page business plan that helps clearly define your target customer and lay out the necessary characteristics of your business. You will understand the 3 financial documents that every farm needs to fill out to make sure you are making money. And we'll give you all that as templates too, so you have the templates to fill out for your farm business. We'll also go through funding, so where to go for funding for the various stages and parts of your business. Starting a farm is hard. Starting a farm without a proven plan is almost impossible. Join us today. Go to growingfarmers.com/start for more information. Now, what did past students have to say? Corey says, the exercises and spreadsheets helped me make the learning process easier and more real. Jenna says, I gained the support system and resources I needed for when I'm ready for the next step. And finally, the worksheets make you think out every aspect of the business step by step. Go ahead, join us today, growingfarmers.com/start. Hey, Thriving Farmers. Next week is our 100th episode of the Thriving Farmer podcast. I am so excited and grateful that I've interviewed over 100 of you to share your top tips with our audience. And we are well over 1/3 downloads. Actually, I'm not sure where we are now, but it's well over that now. And I just can't wait to share next week's guest, who is going to be an amazing mentor and of mine over the years. I would not be where we are in our farming journey without their help. So next week, we're going to have a special guest. I can't wait to share their wisdom with you for farming for the long term. So there you have it, another episode in the books. So I'd love if you would hop on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. Those mean everything to us. We love to hear what you're thinking. If you have a podcast guest that you can recommend, please pop on over to the Thriving Farmer podcast website and leave us a review. That's thrivingfarmerpodcast.com.